Welcome to Health Business Mastery, the Creative Thirst podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Hewitt. Hey, so today's episode, I have with me Jim Cermak from TradeShowU.biz, and we're going to be talking about how supplement entrepreneurs can use trade shows to increase revenue, to get into retail stores, and just a whole bunch of other neat and interesting topics. Jim, welcome to the show.
Bobby, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be on here and talk about this. One of my favorite topics, trade shows.
Yeah, you run your own podcast, right? Just specifically for trade shows.
Yes, sir. Yeah, Trade Show University. And it's all geared around helping exhibitors and show planners get better results from these trade shows. Because any of your listeners who have tried a trade show or been to a trade show, they're expensive. They're very expensive, and you could either leave going, wow, that was a great investment, or that was just awful. And we want to make sure we get you towards the that was a great investment.
Yeah, they can be costly. You have travel fees a lot of the times, right? You have shipments, you have your display, your table, and your background. Plus, you're on your feet like for 12 hours, right?
Yeah, all that and way more. So yeah, it's a huge investment of time, resources, money, and it could be draining. You probably need some of your own supplements at the to get through, depending on your supplement, obviously.
For sure. So, how could a supplement entrepreneur utilize trade shows in their marketing strategies?
Well, that's a great question. And I guess the first thing is, what's your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? So, if you're really trying to go direct to consumer, then trade shows, you have to pick the right show. Whether that is you're going to direct to consumer, or maybe you're trying to find retailers, you're trying to find distributors. And for each of those models, you're going to pick probably a different show. So if you're looking to go direct to consumer, then you want to go where consumers are going and spending money, maybe a health or fitness expo, or depending on what your supplement does. If it's something more medical related, then maybe it's going towards finding where your audience is. If your audience is a very a specific age group, or if it's females versus males, or if it's kids, or whatever it is, you need to understand, who's my audience, who takes my supplements, who am I going after. And so for a direct to consumer, if it's a general thing that anyone could take, that's more of a generic, like a multivitamin type of thing, then maybe it's going to a health fair, a health and fitness expo, where people are thinking about healthier lifestyles and things like that. If it's something very specific medically, then maybe it's going to again, it could be a health fair, or maybe a community fair, or a senior expo, or something wherever your audience is going to be. So that's the first thing, is really understanding who's my audience, and then what is a good show for me to go to where they're going to be, where I can talk to them directly, get feedback, maybe, and possibly even make sales right there on the show floor. So that's the one thing. If your audience is more, I'm looking for distributors, I'm looking for retailers, then it's okay, where are they going? Where are they going to be looking for products like mine? And you mentioned while we were off air, so there's Expo East and Expo West, and those are specific for the supplement market, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. And that's where you would find your retailers. That's where they would go. Is that who the main audience is?
Yeah, it's typically a bunch of supplement brands at those two particular shows, and they're really looking to get into stores, right? So stores go there and they're pitching their product to get some shelf
Yeah.
space. So typically, they usually bring their entire line of
Hmm.
supplements to that type of
Right.
show. And they're looking to make those connections with those retail executives.
Okay. Yeah. And so if that's your audience, if that's the distributor, the retailers, then that's where you need to be. And once you've figured out, okay, this is the show that we are going to invest in, we're going to be there. That's just the very first step. You got to pick the right show, and then it's okay, what do I want to have happen at that show? And there's a I could talk all day long about doing a show the right way to get the best results. But you have to think about why even a trade show in the first place, because especially for those like that Expo East and Expo West, where you're going to have many buyers, retailers, that they're there specifically to figure out what am I going to carry at my in my retail establishment, or which brands do I want to carry as a distributor. They're looking specifically, and you can get in front of them, and a lot of them, in a very short period of time, very condensed. And it's, in my opinion, trade shows are the most efficient and effective form of marketing that you can have over anything else, because it's so condensed and you have that target audience right in front of you that you could have great conversations with if you do it right. But you've got them in front of you now, and then the work begins to really grab their attention and sell, or whatever it is that you want to do, whether it's set up an appointment, set up a demo, just capture information that you're going to follow up with later, whatever your goal is at the show. There's nothing better than being at a trade show.
What about for even smaller brands, right? Maybe they can't afford a booth, but they can probably get a lot of information just by going to the trade show, just seeing what trends are happening, what supplements are out there, what people are trying to get into stores, and see what the next up and coming thing is.
Yeah. For a brand, especially if you're brand new. If you're brand new, I would highly recommend what you just said. Go to the show, walk the show, see who's there, see some of the brands that you might admire, or might consider be direct competitors to your brand, and see how do they present themselves. Is there excitement in their booth? Are you excited going up to them, or to see what's happening at the show? And are you kind of going, wow, I wish we had a booth here? Or is this like you said, there's also a lot of great ways for them to capture information, go around, just do some networking of people that are also walking around, not trying to sell there at the show, but really capture information. There's typically a lot of breakout sessions at these types of events where people from the industry are talking about trends in packaging and distribution and any buying patterns, anything like that. That is a great way for you to capture a lot of great information and be able to plan for the future, be able to change some of your strategies going forward after the show, because you got to talk, you had some good conversations, or you heard some talks from key people in the industry that really help you to get clarity on what your goals are, what your vision should be, and how you can come to market even more effectively than if you would just try to wing it, as it were. So yeah, there's so many great opportunities just by attending a show. But yeah, when you're there, do your research on who your competitors are. If you've never done a show before, see how people and businesses, how do they present themselves, what looks good to you, what is drawing a crowd. And because there's so many techniques, there's so many ways to do it, but it's all about presentation and branding, and being very clear in what your product does versus everybody else's, so that they have a clear view of, oh, we need to stock this product because we don't have anything like it. So you can't look the same as everybody else, or else you're just going to blend in with everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. What if we kind of go down two different paths? I think it might be interesting.
Okay.
Like, so in the beginning, you mentioned two different types of trade shows,
Hmm.
right? One seemed more like grassroots, right? Like the senior type, the local town
Hmm.
trade shows, if you
Sure.
will, right? And the other, the big boys, the Expo East, Expo West. Let's kind of go down each one of those paths, right? And kind of just talk a little bit about like marketing strategy for each path. So let's take let's take the bigger show
Okay.
first, and then we'll come back to the smaller show. So let's say your supplement brand, you're doing $5 to $10 million in revenue. You're selling online, you're selling on Amazon, and you want to take it up a notch. So what would you suggest for that type of company, that type of business at that higher end of trade shows, or like should they go? Well, we know where they should go,
Yeah.
right? But what should they plan on doing? Should they plan on having a booth? And again, I guess it goes back to the
Hmm.
goals as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you want to make a splash, you're looking, like you said, you want to get your business to the next level, you want to reach a wider audience, and you know that I need to get better distribution, I need to get into these bigger retailers, or I need to get into retailers, whatever that is, and you know that that audience is going to be there, then yes, you should definitely uh, make the investment and have some sort of exhibit there. What you want to understand is that all your competitors are going to be there and the big brands are going to be there. So you've got to do something to really stand apart. You can't look like everybody else, or else you're going to have buyers go, well, okay, I see it looks good. I like what you have, but I'm already carrying brands A and B and C. I don't have room for another one of those. I need, so you've got to stand out. You got to say why you're different and how you're different, and be very, very clear in that, in your, whether that's your packaging, clearly your branding, when you're there at the booth, whether that's your display backdrop or you have banners, posters, anything that shows and screams your difference. What is it? And if you have something that is very, very specific, like we've got a supplement that fights against tinnitus or against brain fog or something very specific, you've got to be very clear and shout that, so those retailers, those distributors go, oh, we don't have something like that, or that sounds fantastic, or I need to find out what they have because the current brand is not selling all that well, or it's not well received, we're not getting good feedback from the people that are buying it, so we're looking for options, because that's why the buyers are there. They're looking for better sales too, and they're looking for what's the next thing that we can bring into our line, and how do you present yourself so that you are the next big thing, that you can get their attention. So make sure you are ready with clear, solid branding. And then here's the key to anything at a trade show, not the key to anything, but the key to having great success at a trade show is you've got a bunch of people that are going to be walking past you. How do you get them to stop at your booth? Because all the booths might have great looking graphics, they might have very compelling messages, and you've got a buyer walking past. How do you grab their attention? So you've got to boil it down to having one or two quick questions that you could ask them that are going to stop them in their tracks and so you can capture their attention and bring them into a conversation. And those questions, at least one of them has to qualify the person you're talking to. You don't want to speak to somebody if you're looking for, say you're looking for specifically retailers. So you want to make sure that one of your first two questions that you ask somebody is, are you a retailer? So if they're not a retailer and they are another brand, you don't want to go launch into your elevator pitch and start going through everything about your brand when this is someone that's never going to buy from you. You want to make sure that you've got the right person in front of you, but you've got to ask them a question that quickly qualifies them, or that first question could just be something to grab their attention. So here, I'll give you an example. I was at a trade show a few years ago, and it was a training trade show, all about the training industry. And I'm walking down an aisle, and I wasn't even looking at their booth, and someone says, "Excuse me," and there's a lesson right there. You have to be bold, because that person who walks past you might be the biggest customer you'll ever find. And if they just keep walking, they may never walk past your booth again. So you got to look at it. I've got one opportunity to grab the attention of that person. So don't be shy. Okay. Don't be obnoxious and rude or anything like that, but just a quick excuse me if they're not looking at you. And so I turned, said, "Do you use PowerPoint?" And I'm like, I said, "Yeah, I do." And then she said, "Do you want to see something really cool?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she had me, and then I'm in her booth and I'm going through a demo. And the first question was the qualifier. Do you use PowerPoint? If I would have said no, she would have let me go, because that's all they did. Their whole business was their PowerPoint training company. That's all they do. No no other software, nothing else, only PowerPoint. So they had me, they qualified me. And then that quick question, do you want to see something really cool? Well, who doesn't want to see something really cool? So what are the questions for you and your business? And maybe it's, have you, it could be something as simple as, have you ever, or do you currently have a supplement that handles brain fog, or something around that about your product? And whether they say yes or no, then it could be something. Can I tell you quickly about why we're the best? And so even if they have a supplement that does what you do, then if I would be, if I knew my buyer was at a trade show and someone offered to tell them why their supplements were the best, and my buyer didn't stick around to talk to them about it, I'd fire that buyer. I'd fire them, because you're there to do a job to get the best products into our stores or into our distribution channels. So it could be something that simple. So a quick something that's going to stop them in their tracks. It could be a yes no question, as long as you quickly follow it up with something that is going to pull them in. And I know there's a school of thought that says don't use the yes no questions, but just like they asked me, do you use PowerPoint? Yes, I do. So that they had me. I had to stop and think for just 1 second, because it's a simple question, but I had to think about it. Yeah, oh yeah, I do. I use PowerPoint. So think about your business. What can you ask somebody that's going to quickly stop them in their tracks? And this is when I'm at trade shows, and anyone who's gone to trade shows before, health fairs, farmers markets, they're all kind of like trade shows. Okay. And you're walking past, someone looks at you and smiles, hey, how you doing? That doesn't get anybody to stop doing that. If that's what you might be polite, you might have the biggest smile on your face, you might be very cordial, but it's not going to get someone to stop. You've got to ask them a question that's going to make them stop, and then draw them into your booth, so you can get into that good conversation, telling them about your product and why it's different. And always make sure at the beginning, just you can go through your product description really quickly, 15-30 seconds, but make sure you're asking questions about them. Find out what their needs are. Why are you at the show? Okay, what is about the brain fog supplement that intrigued you? What is it? And then let them tell you, so you can craft your response to them. I've been in way too many conversations where someone will just go on and on and on and on, and I'm like, well, this isn't what I want to talk to you about. I have none of those needs. And then sometimes it's not a good fit, and that's okay. And if it's not a good fit, let them walk away. Don't waste your time with people that are not going to buy from you. So that's what you need to do, is really have a plan in place to grab their attention and get them into that conversation, and then make sure you capture their attention, capture their information while they're there, so that you can do effective follow-ups or whatever that next step is going to be for you.
Right. Some of the bigger trade shows, right? You'll scan their lanyard,
Right.
and you automatically get all that kind of information, right? Or the other gimmick, right, is putting your business card to win
Right.
some sort of prize.
Yeah. And whatever works for you. Cause I know there's some companies, like you mentioned, if it's a small company, maybe they're a smaller brand, they don't have a huge budget, then you got to cut back. And sometimes to get the badge scanners, it might be $400, $500, $600, $700, depending on the show. And you're like, oh, I would rather hold that money back, because I need that money just to travel to the show and to be able to eat when I get there. So you have to figure out what is your budget. But if you can afford the badge scanners, then that's fantastic, because it's a great and easy way to scan, to get someone's contact information. And a lot of times they'll let you put notes right on the record. So, and that's another thing, is when you're talking to somebody, or immediately as soon as they've left your booth, make sure you're jotting down a couple of quick notes about what you talked about, so that when you do that follow-up, you can quickly bring to mind, hey, remember we talked about this and that, so that you get them immediately going, oh yeah, now I remember you, because they may have been walking past and had 100 conversations. How do you stand out? So you got to make sure you take good notes while you're doing it, so that and whether that's on the back of their business card or your business card, or you have a piece of paper where you're capturing information, as long as you capture the information, doesn't matter how you do it, as long as you do it.
Sometimes I use the two pocket method where I'm going to a trade show and I'm talking to people, and if there's someone I want to get back to, I'll take their business card and put them in one pocket. If there's someone I don't want to get back to, I'll put them in the other
Ah,
pocket.
there you go. I love it. I love it. I've never heard that technique before, but it's a great way to not be rude to the person. And as long as you remember which pocket is which, you've
Yes.
got given yourself a very effective way to gather that list of who you're going to talk to afterwards. Yeah, absolutely. That's great.
Yeah, don't get your pockets mixed up.
That could be frustrating if nothing else.
Absolutely. What about that other route, right? That smaller route, like you mentioned, the farmers markets, which is another type of trade show. That's a trade show where like we're doing direct selling,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
People are going there to buy.
Typically, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so if the direct to consumer model is where you're at, and you're looking to just get new customers, and maybe it's selling them a bottle right there or a package of your supplements right there, but maybe you want to get them on some sort of subscription. So just make sure you have all that there. But the same rules apply. As someone's walking past, you have to grab their attention. Don't don't trust that no matter what signage you have, no matter how clear you think it is, no matter how compelling you think it is, if someone walks past and they're reading your banners, they're reading your signs, whether you're at a farmer's market or a health fair or whatever it is, it's some sort of a smaller community type thing, and you've got your consumer in front of you, don't trust that they are understanding anything that they're reading. Okay, because I've seen this way too many times. I'll be walking past a booth, I'll be reading, someone will be ready to engage with me. They'll look at me, they'll be smiling, and I'll keep walking, and they never say a word to me because they've figured, oh, I guess he's not interested in what I have to offer. I may not understand what you're offering. I may have something completely. I might be in the middle of reading. All of a sudden, my phone buzzed in my pocket, and I'm completely distracted because I knew I was expecting a phone call or a text from somebody, and all of a sudden, I didn't even read half of what it looked like I was reading. So just ask somebody as they're reading your stuff. Have that quick question. Does someone in your family, or do you suffer from brain fog, or whatever it is that applies to your product? And then get them into a conversation where you could start talking and find out why they're there, what intrigued them about your products, and then get them into that conversation that can lead to the sale. But it's the same excuse me, it's the same methods. Whether it's a big show or a small show, you've got people walking in front of you that are your target audience. You have to understand who they are. Who's that target audience for you? What is their motivation for being there? And then grabbing their attention and leading them to whether that's a sale or signing up to get back to them at a later time for a follow-up, or leading them to your website or whatever it is that you want that end result to be. If you say, okay, for me, a success for one person to come to my booth, if it's a small farmers market type of community show, I want them to buy something, or I'm going to have a special buy two, get one free, whatever it is. This is what I want them to do. Then everything that you do has got to lead them to doing that. Then you should have signage. Yes, you should have other things, because if you're talking with somebody else, that signage has to be doing some work for you. Because if someone else walks up, they can't. You can't rely just on yourself. You've got to rely on everything that you've got there. But make sure that you're thinking about, okay, what do I want them to do? So if you're at the bigger show and you want to find a retailer or a distributor, then you're going to say, okay, what do I want to have happen? I want to capture the information. I want to qualify that person to see, are they the buyer? Are they the actual title? I might want to deal with that company, but the person in front of me is not the person I want to talk to, because they're in marketing, or I want to talk to the person who's in purchasing, or the person who's the head of logistics or something, whatever the title is that you're trying to get in front of. And then how do I capture their information? And okay, I know that I'm not going to sell them at the today, or maybe you can, but I want to lead to that next phone call. Okay, so how do I do that? What do I need to do to get the conversation to that point? And once you get to that point, you ask them if they have any questions, and then let them go and get on to the next one. Don't get into these long, drawn out conversations, no matter how enjoyable it is talking to that person. And you might be just getting onto, oh, family. Oh, you have a kid. I've got a kid. And you've got, oh, you're from Ohio. I'm from Ohio. And, you get into all of this stuff. And meanwhile, all these customers are walking in front that you're missing. Save that for the follow up. If you're at a big business show, maybe it's, hey, I'd love to talk with you further. What are you doing for dinner? Let's go grab dinner, or let's grab a drink tonight, or let's get coffee tomorrow morning for breakfast before tomorrow's show starts. Use those techniques. Don't get into these big long conversations right there at your booth, because you're missing opportunities. So I can't remember hopefully I answered that question.
Yeah. So it's not the time to do customer research.
Oh, absolutely. If you have the opportunity, yeah. But be very quick with the research that you're doing. Don't get into a long 10-15 minute conversation asking all sorts of open-ended questions. And there's a couple of, I'm glad you brought up customer research. There's a couple of great ways to do this. One is just to have a list of 4 or 5 quick questions that you can ask someone. And maybe you have that on an iPad, or you could use Google Forms. It's a great free way to set up a form that someone could quickly fill out, answer some questions. And that's great no matter what your audience is, if you're trying to capture that information. Or you can just have a paper, fill in the blank with a pen and paper right in front of them. And maybe it's some check boxes. So if you're trying to find the person who's responsible for that's the decision maker and responsible for purchasing in that company, maybe you can just have a couple of different titles filled out on a piece of paper and say, which one of these is you? Are you the decision maker, or are you part of a decision making team, or you're just here to recommend? And who is the decision maker? So you can quickly do that. And what kind of, what's your sales, or what's your buying cycle? Are you looking to buy now? Are you looking to, are you heavy toward the Christmas, the holidays? Is that where your sales are? Are you more towards spring and summer when people are working out and because you have some sort of performance supplements? Or so figure out what is the questions that you would love to find out about your audience, love to find out about your customers, and ask those questions. But again, don't get into big long conversations trying to get all those questions answered, because then again, you're missing out on opportunities. Ask them a couple quick things, get them qualified, and then you can even say, hey, you can have a full long questionnaire. Can I send you a questionnaire? I would love to get your feedback on a couple of things. Can I send you a link where you could take a quick survey? So you can ask them that, and you can get that information later on, or ask or have a laptop or an iPad set up right there where, hey, if you have a couple of 3 more minutes, can you answer these questions about, after you're done with your conversation, lead them over to a laptop or an iPad where they can answer a few more questions. That'll get you some amazing information that you could never have gotten any other way, because you're talking to your direct possible customer base in ways, in large numbers, where you can get great feedback all at one time. So yes, ask questions that you want to get answers to, but understand have those laid out so that you're very efficient, and you get those questions answered, not just random questions, but you get the exact things you want ahead of time. Trade shows are all about planning. And you've got to plan for this so that you have an efficient method of getting people into your booth, capture the information you need, get to that end result, and then get them out of your booth so you can get to the next person.
Yeah, I guess it all depends on the goal, right? And
Absolutely.
also the trade show, right? The bigger the trade show, maybe you just want to have one goal. Smaller the trade show, maybe you could have more than one goal. Or if your goal is really direct sales at like some of those smaller health fairs, maybe you don't want to mess around with talking to customer surveys. So maybe you just want to go right for the sales.
Yeah. And I another thing that I would encourage anyone who's at any of these shows is to make sure you're doing your competitive research while you're there as well. So get outside of your booth, and maybe that's before the whole show starts. where things are set up and no one's walking through yet, and just walk around if you don't have the time to do it during the show, and take pictures of your competitor's booth, grab their literature if they have something there. Take, whatever you can capture from what they're doing. What are they showcasing? How are they saying it? What colors are they using? What messages are they using? How is it different from what you're saying? It's a great way to spy on your competitors in a very quick way. And if you've never met your competitor before and you have some downtime, go up to them and introduce yourself. Hey, I'm in this space. I've got the booth down the aisle here, and I like what you guys have done. You guys have done a great job in the marketplace. I just wanted to introduce myself. How's the show going for you? They're probably going to lie a little bit to you, but that's okay. You may have found somebody who can become a really good ally, because you never know. I mean, I've done that before, where I've made friends with direct competitors, and we ended up having to call them at some point because we were over capacity, and we needed to find somebody who we can have our customers buy from, and in a very good way. And so we kind of had them repackaged for us, do a little private labeling so that we can still meet orders. And we never would have done that if we hadn't made those connections. So be a friend, okay? Even to your competitors, you got to be careful, because you have some people who may not want to be so as friendly as you are, but definitely take that time to do your competitive research while you're there. So that could be another one of your goals that you do, is just to find out what else is going on in the marketplace with my competitors. And then you mentioned earlier the trends, what's happening in the industry. So if there's someone from an industry association, or from a magazine that covers the industry, and just corner them for 5 minutes, or maybe they're doing a talk, and you can find out, hey, what's going on in the industry? What do we need to know about? Can you stop by my booth, and I'd love to talk to you about what we're doing. Maybe you just can give us some feedback, some pointers, some tips on what we need to be aware of, things like that. So take advantage of those connections, and the trends, the competitive research, the customer research, all that good stuff. There's so many opportunities at trade shows.
It also seems a thing that's very nuanced, right? There seems to be like a lot of little gotchas that you would never have known if you're not a regular goer of trade shows. Um, I'm sure people can learn all about that on your podcast.
Absolutely. I give I on my podcast, we've got 180 or so episodes so far, as we're recording here in late October 2022. And I have a lot of expert guests on that cover all sorts of different areas of trade shows and events and conferences. And then I also give a lot of my episodes are just me talking and giving tips and tricks on different areas. But yeah, there's definitely mistakes that people make and businesses make. And one is making sure, not having goals as you go in. Okay, if you don't have goals, you'll never know if you have a successful show. It might seem like a success, but what was your goal to begin with? And so you might say, oh, I got 20 leads. I got 20 leads. Well, if those 20 leads, you might think, oh, that was a great show. But was it? Could you have 30 or 40 or 100 if you would have done things differently? And maybe those 20 leads are only going to lead to X dollars of sales, and maybe you didn't even break even. So you have to have the right goals. That's number one. You have to have the right goals and a plan for working the show. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of things that people do at trade shows that just don't work all that well, and number one is number one is not having goals. But something else I also mentioned is not engaging with people, or not engaging with them in the right way. Is there anything else that you were thinking about when you mentioned about mistakes that people make?
Yeah, one thing I'm not sure of is it the type of thing that is a one and done? Like you could do one show and like, okay, I got 80 leads or whatever, and really wasn't that great, that we were expecting a lot more. Or is that the expectation completely wrong? Is it more of a thing that you need to like go to or do several times before you really know if it's worth doing?
I guess that's a great question. It's a really interesting question, and something that is making me think a little bit deeper. It really depends on what is your goal. So if I'm a brand, if I have a proprietary brand of supplements, and what I'm looking for is I need distribution, or to get into a retailer. Now, I may have found a small specialty retailer that has 5 stores. Great. Okay, I'm in those 5 stores now. Well, that's different than I landed a deal with the buyer from Walgreens, and now I'm in 2,000 stores across the country. So that may be enough to keep me going until I figure out ways to match that growth, and then, okay, what do I want to do next? Okay, so that might be a one and done type of show where I've landed the absolute dream client, and I'm not even sure now that we've landed it how we're even going to do this. So that is one thing. But for most companies, they look at trade shows as an essential part of their marketing. So they would need to go back to it each year, not only from a continue to get new leads because you want to continue to grow, but also from a branding standpoint. I am now building my brand. I came as a small little 10 by 10 booth last year. This year we're going to be 20 by 20. It's going to be a big, we're making an impression. We're looking like a bigger brand. And so we're trying to attract people, so that when they see our packaging in a retailer, they've now got a different impression because we are putting ourselves out there. We're trying to grow. We're trying to look bigger. So depending on what your goals are and what your growth goals are, trade shows are typically something that they want to invest in, maybe get bigger and do little different things. Maybe you're launching a brand new product next year, and so you want to be there to get that big initial push out into the marketplace by being in front of the right people to tell them about what's new. And that's a great way, especially if you're an established brand. Anyone that's listening, that you've got that $5-10 million brand, and you've gotten some nice traction in the marketplace, but now you're ready to ramp up. The buyers are always looking for what's new, what's hot, what's trending, and so how can you meet that need for them, that is going to make them look like a hero, going back that they found the next big thing that's going to really help their sales. So it's again, goes back to their goals, whether it's going to be a one and done for them or an ongoing part of their marketing strategy.
Yeah, there's so much nuance to
Yes, there is.
It's unbelievable. Do you help people with that nuance? Like, do you do any like strategy coaching or anything like that for people?
I do. Thanks for asking. I do. Yeah. So for companies, and I've had quite a few listeners just reach out and say, "Hey, I need help with this." And so if you're looking to go to a show, you're looking to see, should I do trade shows? And maybe I don't have a big budget. Is it right for me to even do a trade show at this point in our business journey? I offer a free 15-minute call just to kind of bounce ideas around and see if does this make sense for you. Any ideas that we come up with in the 15 minutes, those are yours to keep. If you decide, hey, I want to move forward to help, and Jim, I want your help to help us craft what are our goals, what's our strategy, what's our messaging, what do we need, how do we train our staff, all that, then we can talk about that at that point. But yeah, I'm more than happy, and I love talking with companies on their strategy and what their goals are. Would love to talk to anybody about that.
Where can people go to sign up for that or learn more about you and what you do?
Yeah. So number one is just go to my website, which is tradeshowu.biz. That's tradeshow, the letter U.biz. And right on the homepage, or actually there's a contact us page. If you go on there, fill out the form, and then just put in the notes, a free 15-minute call, and that you heard about it on this podcast, and so that I can send a nice thank you to Bobby. And but yeah, let me know where you heard me, and I would love to sit down with you and do a Zoom call and for 15 minutes and bounce some ideas around. And then when you're there at the site, if you sign up for my newsletter, I've got a free video training for anybody. You get immediate access to it. And that's how do I pick the right trade show? So I walk through 7 questions to help you decide, is this the right trade show for me? Or if you've already picked a trade show, did you pick the right one? So it's a 15-minute quick training, but it's going to take you through those questions so that you don't make the wrong mistake of being at the wrong show, but that you actually get locked in on the right show for you. So, and that's absolutely free by just going to the website and dropping your email right there on the homepage.
Super valuable, even as an attendee, just the trade shows, just to see what's going on in the marketplace.
Yeah, absolutely. For attendees, it's super valuable to hit trade shows.
Thank you so much, Jim. This was a pleasure.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come on and let me talk about what I love to talk about.
You're welcome. Creative Thirst is a direct response digital agency focusing on conversion rate optimization and A/B testing. We work with dietary supplement companies who are struggling to maximize the profitability of their funnels so they can scale. Through the last 7 years in the online health space, we've optimized many dietary supplement businesses. And in that time, we've uncovered the 3 critical funnels for success. We put together that information in a free digital download called The 3 Funnels Every Health Supplement Business Needs to Build a Multi-million-dollar Empire. You can get that free report by going to creativethirst.com. Scroll down to the appropriate section and click on the blue Get Your ebook button.